Yes, just everything seemed to be down. Not IRFM either. Or technocratic, if you will, or technocracy order. A major boost, we're going to talk about that later. Why Larry Fink and Andre Hoffman, Larry Fink of BlackRock and Andre Hoffman of Roche, the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world. Why these two multi-billionaires together, they're worth something close to 8 billion with a B. And why they are important right now to any discourse. The thought police are out in full gear. And this is happening not just in Europe, not just in the United States, but we see this creeping into the Caribbean in a very sinister, insidious way that we're going to have to point out. But we're watching that conversation. We're listening closely. We see them, and we know them see us too. But in times like these, we stay firmly on our path, not to be distracted. What's our purpose, our path? Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? Who are we? What is our path? What is our journey? Also, the situation is heating up in the Caribbean waters. We've got what? 8 warships, an armada. The Monroe Doctrine in full regalia. Resurrected, dusted off. Although, really and truly, they've been using it forever. It wasn't even dead. It was being used. But now we're seeing this being played out. CARICOM is still silent. The silence of CARICOM is staggering. But there things are heating up in the South Caribbean waters, in the Caribbean seas, if you will. And as we watch the wars across the world, we see what's happening in Sudan, in the DRC, in Yemen, in Congo, in the Balkans. It's really, really interesting how things are just Atlas. It's interesting how things are just happening everywhere, all at once, and it's all war. And when it's not war, it's a global reset of the economic order led by transhumanists and those reptilians whose only aim is to enslave and re-enslave and destroy for themselves. So we're watching how all of that is playing out, and we'll talk a bit more. Fear is to betray my people. I can empathize with that, and I can relate to that. As Africans, wherever we are, our greatest injustice has been the tragedy of betrayal meted out to us by those who prefer to be our leaders and to have our best interest among their priorities. But our lived experiences tell us otherwise. We who have lived it, we who are experiencing it, feel the betrayal. And those before us, talk about recorded experiences, our ancestors, near ancestors, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and grandfathers. So these are distortions. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who never betrayed us. Walter Rodney, who never betrayed us. Malcolm X never betrayed us. Winnie Madikizela Mandela never betrayed us. His Imperial Majesty the Emperor Haile Selassie I never betrayed us. Too, and never betrayed us. Full liberation, for unity, for self-determination. We are now witnessing, we are bearing witness to a rebirth of commitment to full African liberation, African unity, African dignity, African agency. We're seeing this in the alliance of Sahel state, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali. We're seeing this, and their supporters. It's for us to find the courage to commit to race, loyalty, unity, progress, and prosperity. It is for us to find that courage. We must feel the fear and do it anyway. And one of the things as we go along, because if we're going to come out of this on the other side of this, as liberators, successfully done, we must find the courage to resist betrayal. If we depend on funding from the colonizers, then we're opening ourselves to betrayal. And sometimes this funding really to assassinate our leaders. Mightier than the sword it is. I know we can have that debate. It's always a debate. Everywhere. All at once. And the question then is, do we change or do we die? Change or die. Change or continue to be exploited. Change or continue to be oppressed. Change or continue or to be enslaved. Even further, change or continue to lose your land, access to your land, access to your water, access to your river. By the way, there's a big war on now for water. They're not saying it. You're not seeing it in the news. You're not going to be reading about it. But a lot of the land grab that we're seeing, wherever we are in the world, a big part of that has to do with water. And one of the first things, China was always aware of that, and one of the first things they did when they were coming into Jamaica, that win-win, remember that whole win-win situation? Win-win-win. It's a win-win for China and a win for Jamaica. That's what it should have been. Well, you tell me if you're winning. Where are your black businesses? Where are your black businesses? Where your black supermarkets, your black shops, your black side shop, your black side supermarket? Where are they? I don't know. I can't go into a community now, a town square, and find a black-owned supermarket or haberdashery. It was always going to be that. We witnessed that. We bear witness to that. That change happened within the last 10 years, right under our noses. We saw that. And that is because our leaders betrayed us. But what we're not seeing, because we're not paying close attention, is that we've also lost our water, access to our water. And I'm not just talking about the sea now, and that's important. I'm talking about our watershed areas, our underground springs, our rivers. Do you know how much of that we've lost access to? Fresh water. So here we are. I mean, it's going to become clearer in a while, I suppose. And we'll have, a lot of talk about it on social media, and legacy media will pick up on it, and somebody will make a comment and it will go viral, and then we'll go back to being slaves. So this is a life that Jamaica seems to be choosing for itself, but we cannot just sit on our laurels. We've got to take a stand, even if we're sitting down, to stop those who would continue to betray us. It is a sad situation, but it is one that we must face. So there is a war on for water. Do you know why there's such a serious rush for water? It's not just for life. It is because we're moving into a different time. We're moving into singularity. We're moving into AGI. We're moving into artificial superintelligence. Yeah, we're moving into all of that. But what does it take to get there? One of the things that we don't talk a lot about is water. But if they don't have water, they can't get there. Water and land, critical to where we're going. Artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, singularity. You call it whatever you want to call it. It can't happen without water. And lots of water. Lots and lots and lots and lots of water. Not going to have a whole lot of time to go into that this morning. But if you need, I'll go back to that another time. We've been there before, but we'll go back to that. Because all these massive plants and manufacturing and digital spaces, all the chips they're using, all the equipment they're using, all the technology they're using, all of that calls for millions and millions and millions and millions of gallons of water. This thing needs a whole heap of water. And as we continue to lose our water spaces and our water places and our waterways here in Jamaica, we're going to become acutely aware of this in a short moment. This race, this AI race, because it is a race, even on a small scale. We've given away, sold, betrayed our people. And when I say we, I mean governments. It don't matter which P. It's both of them doing it. And they've started doing this a long time. It not just start now. Our water, our fresh water sources, almost all of it gone. Our rivers gone. When them not dry up because of ill-advised and wanton construction. And it's nothing because there's nothing wrong with construction, you know. It is where we're building. So we don't even care that we are destroying our watershed areas, that we are losing access to our waters, not just because we have taken it away from the people, but because of how we build, we dry up the rivers, we dry up the streams. We dump up rivers. I never see anything like this in my life. They're dumping up rivers to build. You know what? Let me take a break.
Enjoy the best coverage for the things you own.
We are finally witnessing the commissioning into the turning on of the GERD, the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. Africa's largest hydroelectric dam. This happened last Tuesday. A project that will provide energy to millions. And this is all about water. Again, the first time I went to Ethiopia in about 1993 or thereabouts, one of the things I noticed immediately was the extent to which water was used to colonize Ethiopia, or the lack thereof. So wherever there was aid, US aid or European aid or any kind of aid, those areas would be green. just really green and fresh, and the farms would be really good, and they're doing irrigation and so on. I immediately recognized that for what it was. Settler colonialism in the worst ways. Ongoing colonialism, and yet Ethiopia was not colonized. So Ethiopia fought off the colonizers, Italy in particular. And yet, through aid, Ethiopia was oppressed. And I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this. But US aid and European aid and NGOs and all of those who were operating in Ethiopia to cause a false famine colonized Ethiopia. From Ethiopia. I talked about that, and then when I came back, I had many, many, many discussions around this, and the fact that the problem was Ethiopia's access to the Nile. The Nile originates in Ethiopia. At least the Nile originates from two countries, or two places. So you've got the White Nile and the Blue Nile. And so the Nile out of Lake Tissisat, originating from Ethiopia. Tissisat Falls, Lake Tissisat. All right, I'll come back to that. Don't get angry with me because I might be misnaming places. But to say that Ethiopia, though, because of a colonial period treaty and MOU signed off between Egypt and the colonizer enslaver Britain, including Sudan, but not Ethiopia. So that treaty that gave away the Nile, the rights to the Nile, to Egypt, Sudan, and all those upstream, Ethiopia was never at the table. Ethiopia was not involved in those conversations. Ethiopia was not a part of that. So that it was always on the top, it was a top priority for Ethiopia to access the River Nile, which originates from Ethiopia. So you could, listen, if you read my poetry book, Jungle Me, there is a poem there that speaks specifically to this, which is to say that the Nile traverses through entire Ethiopia and goes to Egypt and Sudan and so on, and carries all that silt and all the minerals and everything with it. And so Egypt is wealthy to a large extent because of the water from the River Nile and also the minerals coming down from Ethiopia, Uganda, and so on. And the fact, at the same time, that these devils who brokered that treaty left Ethiopia out of the conversation and took the Nile from them. So Ethiopia couldn't access its own water, couldn't use the Nile for what it wanted. His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor Haile Selassie in the 1950s, was one of the first ones to begin exploring the possibility of building a dam to harness Ethiopia's water and to generate hydroelectricity. So he was one of the first when the Aswan Dam was being built. And this is another thing, because I've also had many conversations in this space with Dr. Jeffries and so many others about the unfairness of it all, that Egypt was able to build the dam in Aswan. And if you've been to Aswan and to see the dam, it is a mightious, thunderous, massive thing. And at the same time, it is so sad, because you know that one of the things that Egypt did to build that dam was to destroy to a large extent, to a very large extent, the Black presence, the ancient and original Egyptian Kemetian presence, culture, artifacts, archaeology in Aswan to build that dam. It's so obvious. So you'll recall, for those of us who've been with us for a while, that I've done many programs in this space asking, what did they find when they were digging the Aswan Dam? And not only that, what's under the Aswan Dam? I've been there. I've walked, left the road, walked down to the dam, walked round the dam. I mean, you can't walk it out in one day. But I've been to the space. I've been in the space. I mean, I'm like an ant when you walk into Aswan Dam. Massive dam. And what is this for? This is for water, hydroelectric power too, but also water mainly. And it is Egypt harnessing the Nile to ensure it has water. The Aswan Dam, and that's not the only dam, because Egypt is very good at this, right? And this is not to say anything bad about Egypt, because people have to survive. And you know that I've been to Egypt many times. I have nothing against Egypt or Kemet. I mean, Egypt as it is today, we have a whole lot against Egypt as it is today. But to say that, I love the place. But there's an unfairness that has been happening regarding water. Ethiopia politically has been denied water from the very water that Ethiopia could have stopped that. Ethiopia could have stopped the Nile going into Aswan, going into Egypt, going to Sudan, going everywhere upstream that it's going, because the Nile originates there. Ethiopia could have done that. They were prevented from doing anything by a treaty signed by the British and Egypt and Sudan. Ethiopia is the second most populous nation on the continent of Africa, with over 120 million people. Okay. Of course, the Nile, is a tributary that originates in Ethiopia, one of the countries. And so they talk about famine. They talk about famine. Manufacturing consent. And we bought into that when they were denying Ethiopia the right to access water from the very Nile that originates in Ethiopia. So this is one of the reasons why I celebrate with Ethiopia this morning. The dam that Ethiopia says will provide power to not just Ethiopia, but also to the region. Egypt, as usual, is talking about how this violates international law. Whose law? Whose law? What international law? You've got Aswan. If you drive through Egypt, you'll see what Egypt is doing. And listen, Egypt is managing pretty well to harness water from the Nile. They're doing a pretty good job. And they don't have the kind of droughts that Ethiopia has, because the British left all the way from England, went into the region, and decided that the water mainly belonged to Egypt and then to Sudan and whoever else down there, sir, or up there, sir, and not to Ethiopia. Can you imagine the water coming from your house and you can't put up a pipe so you can have water for you and everybody in your house? You have to watch it go down to your neighbor house. And some white man come from England, come tell you, say, I saw it stay and we send a treaty upon that and you can't do nothing about that. That's basically what is happening, And then Prime Minister Abe really came in and decided, we are going to do this. And for that, they tried to get rid of him. They started a war all the way up in Tigray. That whole thing in Tigray, a large part of that had to do with the dam. And do not be deceived. because Israel is involved in this. The UK is involved in this. The US is involved in this. Europe is involved in this. They've got a large stake because everything is connected. Egypt has made some really wrong moves regarding Palestine. So Egypt is there like a prostitute, watching the destruction of Palestine. And for that, Egypt is being coddled. And we're going to have to face some truths about the places, about the continent of Africa, and how people are making decisions nowadays. Israel has raised the issue that Somaliland, for example, which is next door to Ethiopia, and you recall we had a conversation about Somaliland recently, told you that so Somaliland is the only country in the world without a central government. Somaliland is not recognized as a nation, as, you know, a country. It's just there existing like a no man's land situation. But Somaliland is doing pretty well for the most part, stable, and everybody's courting Somaliland. Why? Check out your maps. Google Somaliland on the map. Look and see the access it has to the waterways, because that is important. So let us talk about Somaliland. Ethiopia is locked off and blocked off. Ethiopia is now landlocked because the West came in again and took Eritrea away from Ethiopia. Now, I know we're going into many different places, but the bottom line is that all of this is connected. So Eritrea was annexed. For those of us who have been around from 1990, you recall that the head of the FAO here in Jamaica in 1990 was in the studio with me talking about all of this and the extent to which Eritrea was going to be annexed and what would happen, etc., etc. And as a result of that, lost his job, right? He wrote me about that. This is very interesting. So Ethiopia is now landlocked. Remember, Ethiopia needs access to the sea. Every country, every nation need clear access to the sea for trade, etc., etc., etc. So by taking with Eritrea off, and Eritrea has said that Eritrea siding with the West, has said to Ethiopia, you can no longer come through Eritrea. And so they put up a boundary, and this is all because of Tigray and all of that. So we have Ethiopia searching for waterways, for access to the sea, for trade. Let me take a break. This one thing, there's so much more that is involved in it. And so the Grand Renaissance, the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam that we're talking about, that is now commissioned, that is now totally opened, and the people of Ethiopia are benefiting. And I'm sure it's going to be much better in short order because of the plans that Prime Minister Abe have for the dam. But it's not a simple situation. If you listen to Egypt and Sudan and so on, you would think that they are being denied all of this. Sudan had every single opportunity to make use of the water that was coming from the Nile in the way that Egypt did. Sudan has been dragged into a war that's been ongoing for years and years and years. We've covered it. I don't know what else to do. We're linked with Sudan. We have talked about all of this over time. We saw where this was going because the fight was about oil and they concentrated on oil. And I'm not blaming the people of Sudan, but we come back to betrayal because our leaders continue to betray us. And remember now, everybody's there. Remember I told you in 2008 that, or it might have been 7, that China was in Sudan. Now, the first country that China entered in the colonizing way is Angola. And we talked about that. We spent years going through the Angola model. And we told you China is now rolling out the Angola model across the continent of Africa, and then after that, they would come into the Caribbean. We told you also that if you want to know what's going to happen with China in Jamaica or China in the Caribbean, then you should know and pay attention to what's happening with China in Africa. Now, so China has perfected its colonizing ways in Angola. That's a perfect model. It has worked. Angola belongs to China. Then we spoke to you about China and Sudan, because the first time that China deviated from its policy of non-interference in any nation, military or otherwise, was, well, not softly, but because they're going otherwise for oil and minerals and farming and so on, but military to interfere in the politics and wars and so on. The first time they openly did that was in Sudan. And we pointed out at the time, we literally told you about the armies and the amount of soldiers, who they were, the numbers that had left China for Sudan. And they became known as peacekeeping force. Now, China, you saw the rollout recently of China's 80th anniversary of China's victory over Japan. I told you to go and watch that. The military parade. Well, as big as that military parade was, they've got almost the same amount of people around the world, peacekeeping forces. China called them peacekeeping forces. And Sudan is where they perfected that. And one of the things we said to you then is that it's a Cold War. The UK, the US, Europe, the European Union, and China playing out the Cold War just the same in Sudan, but they went after minerals, they went after oil, and we watched them. We bear witness to this also when they divided Sudan. I don't know what we didn't do in this space, and this is why I'm protecting my health, my mental health when it comes to Palestine, because that is, a whole different thing. But Sudan was always going to be the battlefield for access to minerals and oil in particular. And so they divided the two and set the two North and South Sudan and the other Sudan against themselves. And the United Nations signed off on that. It was always a plan. So I am not worried about Sudan and this water business. I really am not worried. And I say this with conviction. And I know the people of Sudan need this water. But Sudan has to face its own problem of fighting against itself. I've done enough research on this Sudan situation. I know people will divide people. But the betrayers are too many in Sudan. So let me go back to Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the only major nation in the Horn of Africa without direct access to the Red Sea. And this is not natural. It is a result, as I have been telling you, of the colonial borders and the Cold War maneuverings that separated Ethiopia from the coastline. So we're seeing, so that is the reality. So now this is a matter of historic correction, and it is also the survival of over 120 million people. So Ethiopia is relying on Djibouti. Everybody's in Djibouti. We've had these conversations before, for 95% of its trade. And this dependency makes Ethiopia extremely vulnerable to global shipping disruptions, to foreign military bases, to geopolitical manipulation. We're watching that. We're seeing that. Somaliland is involved in all of this because Somaliland told Ethiopia, we reported that to you recently, that it would allow Ethiopia access to the Red Sea, and that caused a whole rivalry again. The US and the UK have a heavy military and political presence in the entire Horn of Africa. You have to look at the Horn of Africa in relation to the Red Sea, in relation to Israel, and to understand what's happening here. So starve Ethiopia, deny Ethiopia access to the Nile that originates in Ethiopia, deny Ethiopia access to water. Why? And then every day you're bombing Somalia. Why? And now Israel is saying that it's going to be annexing Gaza, and it's going to be sending all of these people, Palestinians, to Somaliland. And that is the only way that it will recognize Somaliland as a nation. What we're looking at here is geopolitics at its highest. So while, we're looking at the Middle East and, right now we're looking at the southern Caribbean waters. We're looking at the box. We're looking at what's happening with Poland and all of them countries, the old Europe. We might be missing the tension in the Horn of Africa. There's a whole situation happening there, which is going to be, which is likely to blow at any minute. So this is not a simple discussion to have. Let me take a break. To the phone lines to speak with my first guest. I'm not sure, but I know I've got my brother Roger O. Williams online. He's author of the book, The Boy, the Plants, and the Animals. He is no stranger to the program. I'm trying to fix this. All right. As I said before, no stranger to the program. He's been in studio and talking about something quite different, his plays, because he's also a playwright, but an author. He's written many books. Let me just tell you about some of the books he's written. Turn Back Blow, Murder for Sale, Love Will Survive, Only Animals Allowed in Heaven, and now The Boy, the Plants, and the Animals, a novel by our brother Roger Williams, Roger O. Williams. Roger, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, my sister. Good morning.
How are you doing?
You're welcome. I'm okay. Taking it easy.
All right. Well, I must say that I've been reading your book, and listen, you're quite a writer, aren't you? You're a playwright, you're an author, and obviously somebody who's very concerned about making sure that you put out the best. Well, let us start, and it's inspired too. This is what I everything I read from you is inspired. And The Boy, the Planet, and the Animals, no less, just as inspired. Read where someone said it's imaginative, it's urgent, and it's deeply rooted in questions of culture, ecology, and justice. So let's talk about what inspired you, though, to tell this story of as you note, habitat loss through animals and plants as speaking characters rather than through humans alone.
Yes. So first of all, good morning to your listeners, and thanks for having me. So I got the inspiration like around 2 to 9 days after I released Only Animals Allowed in Heaven, and I put it in the vault. Where as soon as I got an idea, I put it there until I'm ready. But what triggered this idea? I was on my way to work one morning, and I saw a possum, and that's an animal who kind of looked like a skunk or a large rat. And he ran across my way, and he went to an open piece of land. And he ran on top of a mold, a large hill-like, where there's concrete. And I said, that is his nest. That's nice, that's a female. So about 2 weeks after my sister, I was walking across that land, and there was no possum nest. The land was cleared by a bulldozer to accommodate a nursing home, parking lot for a nursing home. And I was like, man, that possum lost his home because of humans need to expand to make more money. And I was like, before I started to research the project, and I realized that habitat loss is a worldwide problem, not just in Jamaica. And I said, you know what? I am going to write a story that shows you how animals are affected by human development. So I came up with this story about these set of animals and plants who their home got destroyed by a park. And then I switched it from a park to a botanical garden. And I was like, I don't think the government would really destroy a botanical garden. What other development infrastructure would the government put over some animals and plants? I was like, these highways that they're running through hills. And a lot of our Jamaican blackbirds live in these hills. So I know they affect animals and plants. And I was like, that is what I'm going to write. So I came up with this story about this asthmatic orphan boy who was recruited by a group of animals and plants in a hill after these animals and plants learn about the development, the implementation of a highway. And to answer your question about why I chose animals and plants, they cannot speak for themselves. They depend on advocate humans to speak for them. Because I am from Forest, Manchester, and it's so ironic that when I was writing this book, the people of Forest was going through the same problem of highway cutting out through Forest. People who have food stalls were being affected. People who have bars and little shops. So you will find out in this story, it's not just animals and plants are affected. Human beings, but the difference between human beings and animals and plants, people can protest for themselves. Who are going to protest for the plants and the animals? They have to depend on human rights activists and people who love nature and appreciate nature to speak for them. So my sister, that is why I said, you know what, I'm going to tell the story through the eyes and of the animals and plants.
And this is really effective in the book, the storytelling. And just our listeners know that this is an allegory, really, eco-novel, if you will. And as you heard us talking about, it has these richly symbolic animal and plant characters. When you read the book, you'll find out more. So I hear you saying, Roger, that this was your way of giving voice to the voiceless, or showing that humans aren't the only beings with agency. Yes. Congratulations on that. Well done. Many of your characters, and I wanted to go into the characters in the book, because this is really phenomenal. This is in itself is a side that we have to deal with all by itself. But many of your characters, like for example the Rastafarian Callaloo, a mentally disturbed marijuana plant, these carry cultural and symbolic weight. Was this deliberate on your part to decide which plants and animals to give voices to? Because when you talk about a Rastafarian Callaloo, you're talking about a cultural, a group in Jamaica that has agency, but is recognized. And you write about Rastafari, even your plays. So I see that this is something that you're doing. And a mentally disturbed marijuana plant. Talk to us about that.
Yes, when I'm writing a story, I just don't choose, after I get what we call the log line, which is the basic concept, I just don't go ahead and write a story. I think about what characters should I use that can portray what even human beings would be affected by, what animals would be affected by. So I said, you know what? Let me think about what group, what group, or what people, what individual would be affected by society. And the reason why I use a Rasta plant, I'm from you would say a Rasta place. I'm from Porus. Now I've been used to by Scappas. But I realized that Rasta voice is not so much appreciated by the bigger heads. Yet Rasta has been contributed to reggae music, to the development of Jamaica in tourists and so on. But I think this is a group that's not so much been heard. I think there's still classism. That's why you see I insert lines like where the Rasta plant said, you know, boy, we don't listen to Rasta. These are a way of injecting in the story how a group like this is such important to the Jamaican history needs to have a stronger voice and sometimes face classism.
I know it's that again. Is that Jabush, right? Jabush? No? Jabush?
Oh, Jabush is the Rasta.
Yes, Jabush.
yes. You know, and he has his own way of thinking, and he has his own way of that profoundness of. But I show you how society can, even though the Rasta man may have something important, somebody may want to shut him up, and he may have a little solution towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he says in the book, it is important to know when to voice your objection. This is Jabush saying it, you know. You sometimes have to act like you agree with someone until you is out of them sight.
yes. That's in real life. That's what we have to do. But that is going to come from a conscious plant, you know, a Rastafarian plant. The mentally disturbed marijuana. It's all right. I didn't want the marijuana plant to be the Rasta. It would be too on the nose. It would be too obvious. So I said, you know what? This is a plant that you're growing up hearing that it's bad. I personally see it as a hypocrisy, as a youth, as a child, as his personal experience where we don't move from side of that Rasta man and smoking that bad bush. And to see, I live to see that society has no acting as if that bush is the same. Rastaman has been telling us that this bush is a good plant, have medicinal value, but we grew up learning that it's a bad plant. And I see now people are capitalizing on it. So I said, you know what, let me put a marijuana plant there. But I didn't want it to be just a regular marijuana plant. I want it to be different. And it's not just the mad. There's something about it where people read the book, they can see that, he's obsessed with, you know, the celestial bodies and, you know, so I play on the highness of what marijuana can do, but in a positive way. Yeah. So I think the intricacies of having in the mentally disturbed marijuana.
And I think I might have mixed up the names for you there when I said Jabush, because...
No, Jabush is the Rasta and mad trash.
Right, okay. Because you also, you know what I like about the book? You all have courage.
yes.
All courage on the book.
Exactly, and these are plants and things that the younger generation probably don't know about. We need to integrate, because my sister, I believe that Jamaica, and this is my person, I think Jamaica is losing its culture, and we need to get back to our roots. And this is one of the objects of the book, so people can, you know, these are medicinal plants. What can you do with this? What can we get back these suckers, these plants and plant back these, you know, go back to our naturalness, our nature.
Yes. Hold the line for me, please. Let me take a quick break. The playwright, Roger Williams, is the author of the book, The Boy, the Plants, and the Animals. And basically, as a blurb on the book says, when a group of animals and plants in Jamaica, in a Jamaican Mesic forest, learned that the government of Jamaica has implemented the construction of a major highway that is supposed to run through and destroy their forest home, the helpless animals and plants enlist the help of a 12-year-old asthmatic orphan boy. And even this in itself is, I think, really brilliant, the way you this young boy who is ill, who has asthma, who the plants went to for assistance. I want to talk a little bit more about the characters. Because obviously you're drawing from Jamaican folklore, you're drawing from oral storytelling, and some of it also your imagination. So tell us a little bit more about the characters, the different characters in the book.
All right. So for the protagonist, which is the hero of the boy, I decided for a while I have to think, okay, what child, what gender? Should I use a male? Should I use a female? So I pull a little bit of myself because he has a little bit of slightly delinquency. So not bad, as in only animals alone in heaven. But I use a boy, and then I said, what sickness I could give him, what major hurdle that could also affect the story. So I said, you know what, why not use make him he's asthmatic, where if he has to help plants, then that there's a possibility he may be affected by the plants, because pollen is also one of the triggers of asthma. A forest normally wet, cold, so that is also one of the triggers of asthma, because you want something to go against your character. So it's like Jaws, that movie, Roy Schneider character was afraid of water or something like that. So you want something that's going to affect your main protagonist. So I chose asthma. And when I chose the role, I said, yes, this is what I want the boy to do. And I said, okay, what home he's going to grow in? Does he have family? I said, why not make him be an orphan?
Yes.
Which will make the story a little more interesting.
Yes.
So he's among other group of boys where you can tell the difference between these boys in a home. And I also want to show you that you have people out there who raise children who is not there. This is a part of, you have this in Jamaica, growing up seeing this. So I think it's very important to show parenthood, that maternity, even though you're not the biological mother, you still have people out there who grow children, who cares about children, who, even if they don't have any, that is a part of society that can contribute, and also show how religion can affect someone's life, even from a younger age, that church life, that believe, so that's why I chose him to be an asthmatic orphan boy.
And this goes through, and this is obvious. Well, because I'm a student of literature, I saw a lot of that, and this is one of the reasons why I want to raise these issues in the discussion this morning as we review the book. Because one of the striking things about this book is that each character seems to represent not just a species, but a personality type or even a political stance.
Yeah.
So how do you see these symbolic roles working together in the story? Because this is a book that is, it's written in this language. It's about plants and a young boy and animals and so on. So on the surface of it, yes, a nice little children's book, but it has a really, really deep political meaning and significance.
Yes, if you Google this book, the AI overview is just so amazing. AI is going to immediately tell you that this book has distinct characters. This is what AI overview is going to tell you. This is a book that has these unique, distinct characters. My sister, the reason why I chose is different characters, even though they are plants and they're animals. They are like a reflection of people in the society, that various people needs to come together to work towards a common goal, even if you don't agree with what your neighbor is saying. If you are facing a problem and it affects everybody in the community, whether you are a Rasta, a Christian, a Muslim, a farm, whatever your religious belief or your personal belief, you have to work together to achieve that objective. So that is why I use different characters with, different unique personalities. Some may say it's a little controversial characters, but we have these people. We have people like that in life, and they have to work together. And sometimes they can't live together. I growing up see neighbors who are Rastas and Christian, they go at it, but they all have a common ground.
And that's why I think the Kalaloo. And that's why I think the Kalaloo is so important, because I might be digging deep into the Kalaloo, but to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know. Sometimes you get a question in literature test that asks what was the author thinking, but is Kalaloo a bridge between food, culture, and resistance? Because Kalaloo is so integral to Jamaican culture and life.
Yes, exactly, yes. And that is why, they would have a problem working with a boy. I want to know if he's a vegetarian or if he eats. But there's a conflict between the birds and the plants. And Rasta Jabush have a different opinion on working with this boy. And he has a concern, a genuinely concern, why he doesn't want, why they should work with this Afghan boy, not knowing if he eats vegetable. So human beings can have a concern about a project, a concern about a leader, but test it out. Just don't be blind. You can do your research, but give it a try. So that is why that is the thing with the characters that I use to show that human beings can learn from these animals and plants as well.
And to stay with the characters just a little, there's also the warmonger tomboy working bee. And this one really jumps off the page. What conversations were you hoping to spark with the warmonger tomboy working bee?
I mean, we have these kind of people in society where they have a kind of, they are females, but they behave like males. And I grew up around them. I see them, but they are part of society too. And I want to show society the kind of interaction they can have with people within the society. Can they work together to have a common goal? Are there? You can have an individual who's peaceful, who's hot-headed, but at the same time, can they all work together with this common goal? And how do they like by their peers? Whether by the fellow males or fellow female, how do they blend in? What can they offer in society? Because we live in a society now that is kind of changing and kind of be open. So, hey, why not put a character there that is, I wouldn't want to use the word questionable, but at the same time can blend in with the unity, despite their differences.
Well, it's like real world politics, or even corporate powers. And this is what jumped off the page at me also. This must have been quite a balancing act for you to balance these fiery personalities, but at the same time to give us, the gentle blackbird. It wasn't the blackbird who asked about the tainos. No, it wasn't the blackbird. But somebody asked about the tainos in the book. The tainos were... Was it Old Charles? Who's Old Charles?
Yeah, I think Old Charles, the leader.
Yeah.
It was important to have a leader in the forest. We have the saying, he's the oldest tree in the forest, So I want it to be literal. What is the experience of the oldest tree in the forest? What he can tell the seedlings, what he can tell the little sucker coming up. Just like growing up, you have the elder in the community. You learn from them. You learn what not to do. They may have a difference in approach from the younger ones, but can the younger one listen to the older heads and learn and, not be so egoistic? What can they do, even though they have a different way of approaching an issue? Is their wisdom beneficiary to what's going on to you, or should you use your youngerness of knowing about gadgets and this to counteract what they do? Or are you going to listen? You're going to have what I call balance where you listen to what I'm saying and I listen to what I'm saying, and we come to a common ground, because we have a lot of ego going on here. And sometimes it's not about age, it's about experience. And sometimes it's not about the experience, it's about age. There's a lot of things that are intertwined in this story that's educational to human beings if they read it.
Yes, and the boys and the loyal pet dog. Suppose, yeah. These are some characters that are really well developed, and this is what helps to give the book the easy read, and you get lost in it as you're reading. I want to move on to the environmental and social themes that you've got there, because obviously, at the end of the day, this is the core of the book, because it's talking about habitat loss. And as you said earlier, the central conflict is a multi-billion-dollar highway project, which is threatening to erase the animals' habitat. And this feels very real, very today, especially in Jamaica right here. So were you inspired by a specific case? To what extent?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it's Manchester running through the hills, because I didn't want it to be a flat. You know, in real life, highway runs through multiple parishes, but some parishes like Farringdon is flat. Inspired by the hill behind my mother's house. And because Manchester is hilly, and you may not know, my sister, I realize, but our people, when a highway is being constructed through the hills, how it affects birds. Birds may not used to the elevation of buses and trailers running through that section of the hill, and that can affect birds by the fly and hit in the sides of these tall buses.
My brother, I know this very well. As a matter of fact, when the highway was being built, the North-South Highway, it affected not just people close to the highway, but so many others. And now let me go to the birds. I remember my mother coming to visit, and we sit on the veranda, and she said, "What happened to the bird them? Where are the birds? What happened to the birds?" Because then you begin to miss something. And we're living in a virtual woodland. And the question, my mother is coming out of a deeper woodland. So she immediately missed the birds singing and so on. They're gradually coming back, but we lost them for a full 2 years. And, so I know that, and this is why the book is really, really so important. Hold the line for me. Let me take a break and come back.
Okay.
School just got simpler. Access.
Please get a copy of the book. And you were telling us, Roger, about the impact of highways on birds in particular, and how they sometimes fly right into vehicles and other obstacles to their death because of a change in the ecology.
Yes. And it's an important thing, because what I want the leaders to do is just to be more mindful, pay more attention, do a more thoroughly process to the impact assessment, ecological impact assessment, environment impact assessment when they are doing this. And also, my sister, I would like them to do more, to plant more, to plant. If you're going to cut down 500 trees, 1,000 trees to build a highway, plant back something, because trees are very important to us. Oxygen, it prevents soil erosion and all these things. So it's important for the leaders, for the Jamaica Forestry Department, to take it more serious and plant more.
Yes, I, would ask just our listeners and tell anyone you can to get a copy of this book and read it. It is a delightful read. That's the first thing, but also there's just so much there. You're going to tell us about where it is available in a little while, but so you gave the responsibility of saving the habitats to who in the book? It's the plant and animals themselves.
Yes.
Right, and not yes. Go ahead.
Remember that it also shows that how it affects human beings too.
Yes.
And as I said, it's like a perfect timing, because I'm from Porus, and Porus has been cut out by a highway. And at the time when I was writing the book, people were protesting in Porus too, that people, they sell fruits on the side of the roads. All those fruit vendors are left without people to sell their fruits. You have bars that close down. So it shows you that it's not only animals and plants that are being affected. Human beings are affected too. So, what collaboration can people in the village and these communities that have been disturbed by affected by these highways? What can they do? How can they work together to reach a common goal with the authorities, the government, the developers? What they can do in meetings, how they can discuss, to save not only themselves but the animals around them and plants around them, because nature is very important. Mm-hmm. You may not know, but a bird, the singing of a bird can just help your mental health by just hearing the crickets at night. Even when you go to your bed at night and you hear the crickets and the toads, it gives you that country vibes. But can you imagine you build something that disturbs their ecosystem, that can even though it is development and it may important for the economy, but how can you find that balance where you provide a development for the economy, but at the same time you preserve nature?
Well taken. We talk about the style of the book already, and I want to talk about it a little bit more, because this book is so different, and especially written by a Jamaican author. Now, this is different from global writings on or allegories, but that this is coming out of Jamaica, and I can't recall that we have anything. I said out of Jamaica, but I know you don't live here, but you're Jamaican and you pretend to live here, don't it?
Yes, ma'am.
You're always there. We don't. Yeah.
Yes.
So, do you know of anything near to it? I've never seen anything similar to it coming out of Jamaica. I could be wrong, but not my wide reading.
I gave a journalist, the Jamaican Dean, a copy when I came down there, and I asked her a few days ago. I said, "How was the book?" And she said, "It's not a typical novel." That's her feedback. She said this book is not the typical novel, and it kept her on the edge.
Yeah, that is
true. It's not the typical novel.
That's
true. What she said,
Because stylistically, it moves between satire, fable, allegory, and so then one wonders how you manage to strike this balance. And there's humor, seriousness, and a protest.
Yes.
Was it difficult?
Yes.
How difficult was it for you to strike this balance?
I don't know. I just have that gift of writing on sensitive topic and make it educational and entertaining. And the perfect example is my first book, Animal Cruelty, Turn Back Blow. It's right now. I have people say, "Roger, I want to read Turn Back Blow," but I'm kind of worried. Animal lovers, is it graphic? And I said, no. I can't believe that somebody write a book about animal cruelty and don't show it graphic. So that comes down all my topics that are murder for sale, contract killing, only animals allowed in heaven, which is a tough topic to deal with, and this now. So my sister, it is a gift. And when I'm telling a story, I don't try to be like a writer. I want to impress somebody with big words. What I do, I go back to my roots of listening to the elders in the village who, when they tell their story, how they pause.
They tell it.
And they light their pipe. At what point do they pause and light their pipe? What point they keep you in suspense? How they tell the story. What makes my storytelling effective is that I tell it from the roots.
It is obvious. It is obvious, my brother. And who do you imagine is your primary audience for this book? Is it written for young readers, for activists, for Jamaicans, or for a wider global audience?
I go for a wider global audience. I try to balance how can I write a story as important as this and makes it readable to everybody. So I would say, yes, you want the leaders to read it, but at the same time, I want it to be entertaining. So because for instance, a Jamaican in Jamaica, we have a society who likes entertainment. They don't so much about the education. So whatever you're doing, that's when I was writing Let's Show Them Love about HIV/AIDS. I try to make it as entertaining as possible, no matter how dark it is. So this book is definitely for everybody.
And we'll remind our listeners that we carried that from your from YouTube, your play Let's Show Them Love on this program. So when the readers finish reading this book, what do you hope that they feel most? Despair about habitat loss, or do you hope that there is collective resistance and that this collective resistance can succeed?
Yes, I hope when they finish The Boy, the Plants, and the Animals, they're more aware, because habitat loss is not so much a topic that people talks about. You know, so it's not something that the younger heads would really, even if they see it on TV and hear activists talking about it, they won't even just lean towards it. But now in this book, that's why I make it so entertaining. So I want them to be aware of the topic, be aware of the problems, and see how that, you know, it not only can affect animal and birds, it can affect my granny too. So this is a topic that they need to more zero in on and be aware of. And even when they are sweeping their backyards, if they see a bird nest, they realize, oh my Lord, I cannot destroy this bird nest. Normally I would chop it down with a cutlass, but you know what? I'm going to leave this bird nest. And so the bird can hatch and the bird can fly away. And you start from as simple as protecting a little bird nest to a wider consciousness of, okay, I think that highway that they're cutting out at the back of the land, you know, I wonder if it's affecting 1,000 birds. So it's just, right now, I'm not pushing it down anybody's throat. I just want them to be more aware and be more mindful that this is an issue and what destroying trees can do, because a lot of people live in lowlands where they have landslide. So they have to be aware. Oh, I realize that is the tree roots holding up the soil. Right, you have a thing called soil erosion. You have deforestation. If they go and cut down all the logs, then it can affect my granny's house. I can wash away. So see how it affects them as well. So it's just a broad topic that I had to compact to one little book, but I think I did well, and I think
you did well. But I just, although you say you don't want to push anything down anyone's throat, when I was finished reading this book, I said, you know, literature can push people toward activism. We've seen that time and time and time again, and this is one of the books that I think can do that, even though this was not your intention. It was more for awareness, but awareness can lead to activism, and we do hope that people get a copy of the book and do that. But finally, if your animals and your plants could speak directly to our listeners today, what urgent message would they want us to hear?
Yes, definitely be more mindful when you are implementing your projects. Be aware that we grow everywhere and not all of us are bad. Please remember that a lot of your medicines that you're taking come from us, and we are just as important as saving lives. So be mindful how you hurt us. Be mindful that we are part of your nation. Remember that a Dr. Bird is on your passport. So if you see animals such as Dr. Bird important to be your national bird, we should see that in the reflection of your actions that you care for us. And not only the protected species are important. Remember, the other little animals are part of Jamaica. We live in a beautiful island, but it's not just for humans. It's also for animals and plants. And every living organism, every living thing need to enjoy this beautiful island of Jamaica, and we all need justice. That is what the animals and plants would have said.
And would that message be a plea, a warning, or a demand?
That message would be, is just make people look on things from a different angle. And my sister, that is how when I write my book, I show people things from a different angle that they have never done it before. And sometimes showing people things from a different angle sparks a seed of change. It sparks a seed of thought, because you have never viewed the problem. You have never seen it like that. Sometime in life, you're talking to people and people say, oh, you know, I never look at it like that. That little thing that they say is going to click something in their brain, how they view the topic the next time it comes up.
And the book is available, of course. Tell us how and where we can get this novel that challenges us to see the natural world.
Amazon. It's available. It's on Amazon.com. It's available in paperback, audio, and the e-version.
All right. Brilliant. Once again, Roger O. Williams, really, really motivated by your work. And also just to say congratulations. You've been doing so much. You've got this social concern. I'd take out activism just deliberately to say that you've got this ongoing concern for Jamaica, for these social issues, health issues, and you don't just talk about them. You write, you do something. You write a play, you write a book, and you do more than write. You bring communities together to act out these plays, and you take them into communities across Jamaica, which is something that I know you're doing even now. So congratulations on doing that, on being doing what, and who you say you are.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, and I hope Jamaica will see more of me definitely soon, you know?
Well, when you come, make sure you come in the studio again.
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right, take care. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
When I need to order concrete for my big...
She says, good morning. Your time check was not correct a while ago. You said 14 minutes going up to 7. It's 14 minutes going up to 8. So that's back then. That's true. I knew something was off, But I said in my head, what did I say wrong there? So thank you so much, my sister. And somebody says, morning, Irie FM. Please let Water Commission in Mandeville know that there is no water in Three Chains District. This make 4 weeks now. So National Water Commission, Three Chains District in Mandeville, no water. And let me go. I'm just reading on the IRFM WhatsApp because I'm not able to access any of my personal, whether it's WhatsApp now. I was accessing that before, but not right now. Facebook or Twitter or anything. And here's another one that says from Francine Mambi that says, big up to our ancestors that never betrayed us. Yes, my sister. And let me go down because I saw, okay, here is one. Grand Rising Sister Kabu. It's J. Sean Christus, a.k.a. Sean Facey from Old Harbor Bay area. Okay, thank you for that. All right, how are you doing, Sean Casey? And it says, morning, all right, no, morning, Queen Kabu. Okay, yes, Barry back. And I say, morning, Queen Kabu, morning, Queen Kabu. Barry back, all no, not coming home tonight. Oh, you're going to Alligator Pond? Is that what you're saying, Barry back? I mean, so sure. It sounds like a that you're saying, though. And Irie daughter, my sister, how come I'm not hearing from you otherwise? Irie daughter, now I'm seeing you. Hey, good morning to you. And let's see who we've got here. Okay, Shellyan Jackson, Tina Shellyan Jackson. Oh, okay. So Clayton, love that little wit. Okay, love that little twin. So you're writing to me about what's happening in Tokyo. Okay, great. Ready. Okay. I missed something there. Let me take a break and go check something.
Full Oasis has taken the cash madness to 2025.
Medley relay team at last March's Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships died at the Percy Junior Hospital. During a training session, Tanisha, along with some members of the team, stopped and sat down. This is normal, but after that, they were told to get up and continue training. Tanisha failed to get up. She was assisted by a female member of staff, but was still not responding to get on her feet. She was rushed to the school doctor in Frankfield, where she was transferred to the hospital. That is where the sad news came later, that she had died. This is according to the head coach, Michael Dyke. Deepest condolences to Edwin Allen. Hi to the family of Tanisha, friends, colleagues, classmates. So sad, so sad. And we're hearing of another young student who was found locked in a bathroom. The reporting, I won't talk about because I'm not sure, but I see what the reporting is saying around that, but that he was also found dead. This is really sad. My condolences to the families. the U.S. government, Donald Trump, has sent an armada into the Caribbean. The nuclear-powered submarines are still there. The warships are still in the Caribbean waters. And in Trinidad, the Prime Minister of Trinidad, Vicesa, is doubling down on her support of the killing of 11 people, extrajudiciary killing of 11 people in a boat by the U.S. And we're learning now that the boat was actually turning back when it was eviscerated. This is illegal. This is criminal. We see where Marco Rubio has gone on to Gaza and to Israel, and the statement he's made on his way to Israel relating to Israel's unprovoked bombing of Qatar. Phenomenal. The Labour government is collapsing around him. What with the firing of Rachel Reeves, then Lord Mandelson. And these things, just two things are not connected, because Mandelson, apparently from what we're hearing, this is a connection to Jeffrey Epstein. This is a whole other kettle of tea. The Rachel Reeves situation is different, so we shouldn't even connect them. But Keir Starmer's government seems to be collapsing around him. The center cannot hold. That's basically what we're seeing. Turning and turning in the widening burrow. The falconer cannot find a falconer. The falcon cannot find a falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Where anarchy is loose upon the world. Hostile occupation of another fishing vessel, because Venezuela is reporting that the United States boarded another shipping vessel. Hostile occupation of a fishing vessel. U.S. military action against Venezuela boat sparks condemnation and troop deployments. Venezuela says these humble and harmless fishermen were intercepted by the U.S. destroyer USS Jason Dunham, DDG 109, on Friday. And Venezuela is hopping mad about this. They have deployed troops. But this is what's happening in the Caribbean waters. And I said, for CARICOM, it is their League of Nations moment. Today for me, tomorrow for you. If the world had listened to this little man, maybe World War II would not have happened. It's good for CARICOM to go back and study that whole situation with the Emperor Haile Selassie in Ethiopia. Because CARICOM is turning a blind eye and CARICOM is silent, and I don't even know why. CARICOM is based in Jamaica. We're talking about this every day inside here. We're writing about it in the social media spaces, which we know they monitor. Maybe, anyway. I'm blocked out of all of them now. But, so there's that. And I know the Gleaner has done at least two pretty, very, very good editorials on this, in addition to other news stories coming out about this. So it's not like they don't know. They know. But let us see where it falls. We can't help but see this whole commentary on the Charlie Kirk situation. For me, it's a question about free speech, and not his free speech, but all of us free speech. And if we put it in that context, then we can begin to have a conversation. Because it can't be free speech for one and then not free speech for none. This is a situation of a 1984 situation where the thought police is called out. A lot of people are losing their jobs because of their exercising their free speech regarding that whole situation. A lot of people are losing their jobs. They're making lists of people who are coming out and saying anything that they don't want them to say or should not be said. So they're making a saint of him. And as a result of that, people are afraid to talk about who he was, what he represented, and to challenge, to prove him wrong, because that's what he said. Prove me wrong. So this is basically the fear under which global media is operating. And it's very, very interesting because this is George Orwell's 1984. This is Orwellian, if you will, dystopian. Checking out the Gleaner, Tuesday, September 9, there was a headline that says Jamaican academic had input in documentary about Kwame Nkrumah. And it says a Jamaican professor from Atlanta, Georgia, was the historical consultant for a documentary about Ghana's first prime minister and president, Kwame Nkrumah, that had its world premiere last week at the Toronto International Film Festival. The Eyes of Ghana, by two-time Academy Award-winning Canadian director Ben Proudfoot, profiles the Ghanaian filmmaker Chris Hess, who was a personal cameraman of Nkrumah. Among his executive producers are Barack and Michelle Obama through their production company Higher Ground, and John Okomfra, a respected Ghanaian-born British artist, writer, film director, screenwriter, theorist, and curator. And then it goes on to say, this is where I'm frightened and jump out of my seat when I'm reading this something, because I wonder it was who, and then I say Harcourt Fuller, a Jamaican scholar of Kwame Nkrumah, who is an assistant professor of history at Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia, flew to Toronto for the opening screening and documentary. And you know why I didn't read anymore, Mr. Harcourt Fuller, sir? Professor?
First of all, good morning, Empress Kabu, Mahat Kheru. Good morning, my beloved Jamaican. Thanks for having me once again.
Yes, and we'll take the apology right up front.
Big up to the Gleaner for covering and everything as well, you know.
Yes, big up the Gleaner, you know. Big up the Gleaner. You understand me? It's not that I couldn't have got the story for my brethren, like, to break it in Jamaica, you know. He gave it to the Gleaner, but we're good. We're good.
But big up, listen, IRFM, one IRFM global, all over the world, you know. Bring it to the world, Jamaica to the world. Big up.
Congratulations, my brother, Professor Harcourt Fuller. He's a history professor. He's a filmmaker, music producer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. He's a descendant of the Windward Jamaican Maroons. He holds a PhD in international history and an MSc with merit in history of international relations from the London School of Economics and Political Science, in addition to a BA in international studies and an MA in history from the City University of New York. And he's currently Associate Professor of History at Georgia State University in Atlanta. He has previously taught at Connecticut College, Emmanuel College, Florida International University, and was a visiting researcher at the African Studies Center and a visiting scholar in the African American Studies program at Boston University as an internationally recognized scholar. You know, Professor Fuller, he's no stranger to the program, has been in studio on the line. There's so much more to say about him. But I think it's important for us to point out that you are involved in documentary making and film making, Professor Fuller, and that you're also the producer of the award-winning one-hour documentary film on the 18th century African-Jamaican Maroon leader, Queen Nanny, legendary Maroon chieftainess. That's your work. Just let us underscore that. Brilliant work, by the way.
Thank you so much. And let me just add, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that I'm a proud graduate of Trenchtown Comprehensive High School, and I originally hail from Crescent Road in the 2 Miles area. So I want to big up all of the residents of 2 Mile and of Trenchtown, the whole Trenchtown area, you know.
Of course, and we never forget that when you come on. You never allow us to forget that when you come on. Let me take a quick break and come back.
We would review the film, check it for historical accuracy and interpretation, and then offer anything else I wanted to suggest. I should point out that there were other historical consultants on the project, and I am one of them. So that was really great to see Nkrumah finally getting some spotlight on him for his work and all of that. Even though the documentary really focuses, I think, in a brilliant way on Kwame Nkrumah's personal videographer, who is still alive. He's 93 years old, Chris Hesse.
And I want to talk about that, to come forward and talk about that, but to go to your own scholarly focus, especially your monograph, Building the Ghanaian Nation State, Kwame Nkrumah, Symbolic Nationalism. Talk to us about that. It investigates how Nkrumah used symbols like stamps, money, monuments, etc., and even military iconography to foster Ghanaian national identity. Talk to us a little bit about that work. I'm reading your journal article, but of course I haven't read the book itself.
Absolutely. And life has a way of life is an interesting thing. Kwame Nkrumah received his PhD from the London School of Economics. I didn't know that when I went there, but the reason why the LSE is important is that when I went there to study this connection between history and money, right? Because I had been a collector of currencies since I was a child living in Jamaica, and I had built up a large collection of banknotes from all over the world. I went to the LSE to study that, and then I was drawn to Ghana because what I found in my research was that when Ghana, after the Second World War, when Ghana was gaining when it had its nascent nationalist movement, and when Nkrumah entered the arena, he really focused on this idea of how do you build a new nation from a colony. And one of the ways in which he did that was to use symbols. Africans in general, the Akan people and others, they use symbols a lot to communicate. For example, you have the Adinkra symbols, which the Akan people use, for example. So he looked at the fact that money is one of the most widely circulating, pieces of promotional material, marketing material. Because most people look at money as something you spend, but actually, and people can do this right now, wherever you're listening from, you pick up Jamaica, you pick up currency. If you're in Jamaica, look, who is on it? What are the symbols? Who are the people depicted? So Nkrumah, once he became prime minister, he started to remove the images of the European, the Queen, etc., from the currency, put his own. That was controversial, but we can get to that. But he built statues of himself. He Africanized other symbols, and he used symbols as a way of communicating about how to build this new nation state called Ghana, and how to build what he hoped would be one day, in short order, a United States of Africa. So symbols were very important to him, whether we're talking about the iconography of postage stamps, currency, statues, of course, the national flag, the national anthem, the coat of arms, all of these things that every nation state, every modern nation state has.
And you underscore how this embody both his leadership and Ghana's post-colonial aspirations.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, in terms of communicating to different people about what was important, to them. If you take the flag of Ghana, for example, that has a red, yellow, and green band, and it has a black star in the middle, which is the lodestar of African freedom, which of course he got from none other than Marcus Garvey. In Nkrumah's own autobiography, he said that Garvey's philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey was the book out of any other book that really inspired him to be a nationalist. Right? So everything, the symbolism of the flag meant something. right? And everything else.
Mm-hmm. I know this is kind of an aside, but I remember the first time I went to Ghana, which was 1992, and there was still a whole lot of that present. But every year I go back, I see that more and more new symbols are emerging, symbols of white Eurocentric Christianity, for example, replacing these African-centered patriotic symbols that Osagyefo would have brought forward.
You know, as history marches on, right, you have new actors, new players, and Ghana, like many other countries, is complex, right? You're going to have people who might focus on certain symbols, but you can, for example, have someone who is religious, but they're still Afrocentric in a certain way. If you take, for example, when you go to, and just to stay on the example of Ghana, you go to Ghana and you might go to a church, but they're dressed in traditional Ghanaian attire, kente, for example.
Not anymore, not really.
Yes, I'm saying in some circles, right?
Yeah.
Or they might be preaching in Ga or Tree or Ewe or different languages.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that while at the same time you have an erosion of these African symbols and these African ways, even on the continent, you still have some people who sort of balance it out. But you're right. Wherever you go in Africa, you're always going to find a mixture of some who endorse, the history, the culture, the symbolism, and then others who reject it, and then others who, sort of mix everything together.
What does it say about, and you've written about nationalism or nation building when it comes to Osagyefo, what does it say about where Ghana is going in terms of that nationalism and nation building? Bearing in mind what you said earlier too, because you pointed out that there's an aspect of symbolism that Osagyefo used that's controversial and had to do with the British monarchy.
Well, if we're talking about the controversy, when and I'll give you one example. Mm-hmm. When Ghana became independent on the 6th of March, 1957, Queen Elizabeth II was still on their coins. They did not have banknotes in regular circulation at the time. And she was also on their stamp. She had been queen, I think, from 1953, before Ghana became independent. Mm-hmm. And when Ghana became independent, they were still a member of the Commonwealth with the Queen as head of state, right? Like Jamaica is currently, right? Mm-hmm. And so when Nkrumah took her image off of the coins and put his image, and in my research, I found evidence where the British were not happy about this because she was still the head of state, and they complained about it through diplomatic channels. And I write about it in my book. Yeah. Now, of course, Ghana became a republic where Nkrumah then became president on July 1st, 1960. And so that wasn't an issue anymore. Mm-hmm. And he was able to put his image on currency and postage stamps, etc. Mm-hmm. Except that there was another issue where, in the country, of course, every politician has, opposition and things of that nature. Yes. And the opposition felt that instead of him putting his image on coins, in statues, postage stamps, that it should have been maybe someone else or something that was more reflective of the entire nation, because they argued, rightfully I would argue, that he was not the only one who fought and won independence. Mm-hmm. And so that was an issue that kind of plagued him during his presidency.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me take a quick break and come back to talk a little bit more about the documentary itself, and especially highlighting Chris Hess's eyewitness perspective and your own personal involvement. A quick break.
Thank you.
Jamaica's poverty rate has dropped from...
Wears many, many hats, and so you never know what he's going to talk about when he comes on this program. And today, we're talking about Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. What's interesting, Professor Fuller, is that we've had so many conversations, and it's recently that I learned about your serious academic research on Asagifor, because we tend to talk about whether it's Maroonage or we're talking about the entrepreneur, the filmmaking business, or your involvement with which department in the United States again? You were involved with the coin.
Yeah, I'm with the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee, which is within the United States Mint.
Mm-hmm. Remind our listeners about what you do there and what you have done there.
Well, what we do is we are an 11-member committee. I was elected, I was put on the committee by the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, for my expertise in currency. Mm-hmm. And the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee, what we do is we review designs for U.S. coins and also congressional medals of honor and things of that nature. So just to give a very quick example, mm-hmm. U.S. quarters, the 25 cents, they have been, they have been redesigned. So we have issues, for example, with Maya Angelou, with Celia Cruz, the Salsa Queen, and mm-hmm. other figures in American history mm-hmm. And American culture. Of course, Celia Cruz is Cuban, but she became a U.S. citizen. So we get designs, we look at them, and we discuss them publicly, and then we make our recommendation to the director of the U.S. Mint, mm-hmm. Who then decides if she's going to go with our design, and then that will eventually get onto coins, or if it's a Congressional Medal of Honor. One very quick example: I worked on the 6888 or the 6888 Congressional Gold Medal, which was given to women, African American women who served during the Second World War, sorting out the backlog of mail in Europe. Mm-hmm. And they were the first all-black female unit that went over to Europe. Mm-hmm. So I'm just pointing out.
So we had a movie. Yeah, we had a movie about them recently, didn't we?
Yeah,
the Tyler Perry movie.
The Tyler Perry movie on mm-hmm. Netflix. Yeah, mm-hmm. So I worked on the Congressional Gold Medal that was issued to mm-hmm. the surviving members and their descendants.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So back to the documentary, The Eyes of Ghana, and directed by and including the Barack and Michelle Obama. I mean, how big is that?
Well, in film, and as you said, I wear several hats, and what I'm doing mostly nowadays, of course, including being a history professor at Georgia State, is I'm working on films, whether it's documentaries, whether it is feature films. As you know, I'm working on a movie on Nani of the Maroon, and I'm also now working on a limited series. It's going to probably be a 5-part limited series on Kwame Nkrumah. And so it was really great working on a documentary in which the Obamas were the executive producers. And I think that should tell you something about the production. Mm-hmm. What I do like about this production also is that it includes Ghanaians based in Ghana. It also includes Americans and Canadians. And so it's a very diverse cast and crew. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot to make any type of film, whether it's a documentary, and these, especially on this level, it takes a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of support. So I was very happy to be a part of something that is so diverse, where you're getting to work with people based in Ghana, the U.S., Canada, and of course to have a former president and of course Michelle Obama as executive producers was very important. And when the documentary was premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is among the top 5 film festivals in the world, the Obamas appeared on a video before the documentary played, and you can only imagine the reaction in the theater. So it is no doubt the honor of my filmic life to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. And tell us about how your expertise in, as we've spoken about, anti-colonial nationalism and Africana transnationalism helped to guide these films. And I'm not seeing it yet, just trailers and clips here and there. And I know you've sent me something on YouTube, but I'm locked out of everything. But to guide the film's nuanced portrayal of Chris Hess himself, Kwame Nkrumah's personal cameraman, and as you mentioned, a key witness to Ghana's liberation and decolonization struggles.
So because I'm both a scholar of Nkrumah and a filmmaker, and just by the way, I've also reviewed other very diverse films. I did Pirates Behind the Legends, which is a National Geographic production that came out of Britain, and you can watch it on Hulu. And I also did 1,000 Years of Slavery, which is on Amazon Prime. And that is executive produced by Angela Bassett and her husband and stuff. But, when I review a film as a scholar, I'm looking for historical accuracy and interpretation as well, because history is not just about facts. It's about how you interpret those facts and what are the consequences of historical action and actors, etc. And also as a filmmaker, I have ideas as I look at a film, to see, okay, is this scene, is it a powerful scene? What else could it could help to make it work, etc. So I gave them my notes. I think I gave them around 10 pages of notes. And wherever I felt that they needed to perhaps reconsider something or add something, then I would make that. So, and then you also get to see the film before anyone else sees it. So to contribute to shaping the film, obviously it's a team effort, but to have an input was really quite.
Is there anything you can share with us that you added? And let's not talk about what you took out, but say what you added, which would be.
Yes. Okay. So one thing I would share, a lot of people don't know that Kwame Nkrumah lived in the United States and went to school here for 10 years, from 1935 to 1945. But one of the things I added, there was a mention that Nkrumah was influenced by W.E.B. Du Bois, the famous African-American scholar, philosopher, activist, Pan-Africanist. And one of the things I said that they should also include that he was influenced by Marcus Garvey as well. Again, Nkrumah says so in his own writing. And of course, the Black Star Line, the Black Star Shipping Company, which Nkrumah created in Ghana, the Black Star on the flag, and even Pan-Africanism itself that was heavily influenced by Nkrumah. And they put that in the film.
Brilliant. And about Hess, so this documentary is through the lens of Chris Hess for the most part?
Yes, and I must congratulate Ben Proudfoot for this vision, because the easiest thing to do is, if you're doing a documentary on Kwame Nkrumah, you do it's about him, right? But instead of focusing on him directly, he focused on someone who's living. The documentary started 4 years ago, and at the time, Chris Hesse was 90. Now he's 93 now, right? So in 94. And to focus on a videographer who was oftentimes the only black videographer around Nkrumah. So Chris Hesse he loved film since he was a child. He was trained as a cinematographer, and he was doing work in Ghana when Nkrumah was, early in his being a prime minister. And Nkrumah noticed him and said, I'm always seeing this guy. And then Chris Hesse got a phone call where Nkrumah requested that he wanted him to be his personal videographer. So he went with him all over Ghana, all over Africa, United States, Soviet Union, you name it. He was there. Again, oftentimes, especially in the white majority countries, as the only black cinematographer. So he filmed in Nkrumah. They developed a personal bond, a personal relationship. But here's the main thing. After the coup against Nkrumah in 1966, there was a frenzy where the military was burning everything and anything. I mean, people, and if you had a picture of Nkrumah, some people got, killed because of that and persecuted. And what happened was Chris Hess had over 1,000 of these video reels, the negatives for these reels in London, because at the time that's where you would send a film to be processed. And the military didn't know about that. And over the decades, Chris Hesse, the videographer, had been trying to get them preserved for Ghana and for the world, and it didn't happen until this film crew came to Ghana. Ben Proudfoot, the director, had never heard of Kwame Nkrumah, and he heard about him, and he said, "We need to make this film." And what I must commend the filmmakers for is that the proceeds from the documentary went to restoring a theater that was at the center of Ghanaian cinema, and also to digitizing these over 1,000 film reels that are there, that if they don't get digitized, they're just going to wither away, and history will be lost to all of us forever. So that's kind of the main takeaway.
Yes.
That they're back to preserving these film reels.
How important is that? Because, I work in an industry that I know this is critical, but even for this very program that I'm on, we've lost so much archival material over time. We're talking about just 35 years, but we've lost so much. And I know that, it just looks sometimes, I remember doing research on Miss Lou many years ago, and I was trying to find, a lot of what she did at JBC, Ring Ding and all of those stuff. And so much of that is lost too. How important is it for not just organization, but for there to be a thinking at the individual level, whether it's at the school level or whichever part you're going to start, that it's important to archive material in the way that we have this footage found, this archival material found now being used in a documentary. But even beyond the documentary, this is historical.
Us Jamaicans have a saying, "One on dead, no dash it away," right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to use that to highlight and actually make a plea to everyone. It is so very important because if you think about it, it took a Canadian filmmaker to go to Ghana, having not heard about Ghana's founding father, one of their founding fathers, right? To make a documentary that is then digitizing, right, this precious body of work. And why that is important, I want to highlight this. Imagine if you are a Ghanaian or a Jamaican and you wanted to study, let's say you wanted to do some research on anything in the United States or Canada or England, etc. You would have to get a visa, you have to have money, to even access those archives. But of course, if you're in these countries, you have more access. Your passport alone can get you to Ghana, Nigeria, most often without a visa. And then you have, right? So, yeah. And I want to highlight this because some of the producers of The Eyes of Ghana, this is what they're saying, that when they're in Ghana, they don't have access to video material and other type of research material that are in the archives in the UK, in the US, in Canada, etc. And that's why digitizing their own history, whether it's in film or in text or whatever, and having it available in Ghana or in Jamaica or in Trinidad or wherever you want, right? That is important because just think about going back to The Eyes of Ghana. Think about when these film reels become digitized and they are located in Ghana. Think about the students who are studying not only Ghanaian history, because the film reels deal with African history and global history and politics.
Yeah.
So you're based in Ghana. Now you have a vast archive. You don't need to fly out of the country to go access. So if you're a student, or you're a journalist doing research, or you're a filmmaker who wants some video clips to put into your film or your documentary, now that is accessible. So to highlight what you're saying, I think there needs to be a greater effort by all, private sector, scholars, those who are funding, government, everyone. This is an all hands on deck approach to making sure that any material that probably was on VHS tape or any other medium, gets digitized. Because think about, look at this documentary. It has gotten to the level where even a former U.S. president and his wife, Barack and Michelle Obama, really got in on this. Meanwhile, we have it there, and we didn't think that, that it needed to be preserved. So we really have to remember that what we have is gold, and we need to preserve our own history.
Hold the line for me, please. Speaking with Professor Harcourt Fuller, who has worked on the documentary, consultant on the documentary, The Eyes of Ghana, directed by Academy Award-winning Ben Proudfoot, had its world premiere in early September. Was it last week or the week before, Professor Fuller?
It was last week at the Toronto International Film Festival, which ends today, actually.
All right. Quickly, just only because we're kind of running out of time, but thank you so much for your patience and holding on through the infomercials. Where do you go from here? Because I know you've got quite a bit in the bag to do, and you're always involved. So what is the next step for you? Can you give us a preview of your ongoing projects?
Well, the two main projects I'm working on right now is a movie on Nanny of the Maroons. As you mentioned, I worked with Roy C. Anderson on the 2015 documentary, Queen Nanny, Legendary Maroon Chieftainess. I'm writing a film on Nanny, which is very, of course, close to me and important, and we're moving ahead with that. And then also on the heels of this, The Eyes of Ghana documentary, which has really opened up a space for the world to know more about Kwame Nkrumah. I have adapted my book into a 4 to 5 part limited series on Nkrumah that I'm focusing on. So those are really the two things that I'm actively working on in terms of within the film space.
How can we get your book and access your work?
My book on Nkrumah is on Amazon. Building the Ghanaian Nation State is the main title. So if you put in my name or if you Google it, that will come up. So that's the main one. Of course, for those who are within the university space, you can access. I have several journal articles published in various academic journals on Nkrumah and other topics, and I have book chapters on the same as well.
But just quickly before you go, anything, because we know you are one of those persons who have been very integral to preserving the sounds of Jamaica, including the sound of the maroon, the Kumina sound, the Nyagbingi sound, if you will, because I know you're working with the brethren in Trench Town, and so much of Jamaica indigenous sound. Anything in the works on that?
Yeah, and I want to say, music runs in my family. Big up to my brother, Justin O'Cohen. Anything that I do in terms of my production, music and sound is always a major part of it. And the film on Nanny will be no exception to that. So we're always finding ways of incorporating Jamaica's traditional sounds in it, Jamaica's, African-derived sounds and all of that. I also want to say a big up to Postino Kimai Fuller, who is my nephew and producing partner in New York City, right? So we work with musicians, big up Makalayan and Bingi, who was on your show a couple of years ago out at Trenchtown. And, of course, big up to all Maroon peoples as well. Big up to Ginger Hope, Moortown, Akompong, Charlestown, Scott Hall, everywhere. So, yeah, man, so we use a lot of music within the film space because music and film go together. Yeah, man. I do want to, speaking of that, if I may, a quick plug.
Yes.
There's a documentary by my colleague, Alison Duke, who's Canadian of Guyanese descent. She did a documentary called Bam Bam, the Sister Nancy Story.
Oh.
And, Bam Bam is the most sampled Jamaican song, whether reggae or dancehall, of all time. It's been sampled over almost 200 times by likes from Jay-Z to so many other people. I had a chance to see it at the Bronze Lens Film Festival in Atlanta. Big up Sharando, by the way. My and Christopher Johnny Daly as well. Yeah, man. So I had a chance to see it. It is such a love letter to Jamaica, to Sister Nancy. I'm not sure when it's coming to Jamaica, but because it's doing the film festival circuit right now, and at some point it will have distribution. But that's also a documentary to watch out for, which has to do with Jamaican music. And culture. Bam Bam, the Sister Nancy Story.
And that might explain to some extent why it is now it going viral on TikTok again. Bam Bam. Because I noticed it. Yeah, okay. That explains it.
Yeah, it's a lovely documentary. I have to commend, our people, we are our music. I know sometimes, there's so much happening in the world. But what I want to say to Jamaica, we have a wonderful culture. We have and history. We have given so much to the world. When you think about the influence of Jamaican music and culture on everything from hip hop to reggaeton to contributions to other genres, Afrobeat, everything, right? With all due credit to all of these genres, but we had a hand or a foot in it, as Jamaican do that say, right? We have done so much, and I think that we should continue to be proud. We are a great people, and we do greatness in the world, So
true.
I just want to say, just continue just to be ourselves, and the world will have to recognize us.
That is true, and still saying Jamaica, saying I am Jamaican, still is the passport to get you through the entire world. It don't matter what's happening. You present yourself as Jamaican. Okay, yeah. Oh, Bob Marley.
Of course.
Are you gone through? Are you saying both? Are you gone through? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It still gets us through places, difficult places too. Thank you so much, Professor Harcourt Fuller. Looking forward to seeing you when you come on in the island next time. And congratulations on the work you're doing. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you.
Company in the world. So the vice chairman of Roche is Andre Hoffman. Now, Andre Hoffman and Larry Fink have been named as interim co-chairs of the World Economic Forum. It deserves a little silence, because basically what this is telling us is that these people, it don't matter who dead and who not dead and who stepped down and what's not, they are going full speed ahead with Agenda 2030. It's not for us to pay them much mind, but it's for us to know what they're doing. It is also for us to know what we are doing, because they have an agenda. The agenda include controlling the food supply chain. They already control it. And we're going to see that more and more as we go into 2030. The plans that they have for Agenda 2030 includes a total control of the food supply chain. We can come back to that. We have done so much on that already, but maybe it's time for us to revisit it. Anyway, so let me go on a bit. We don't have much time. So the Switzerland-based international advocacy non-governmental organization and think tank, because this is what they call it, also cleared its founder. So this is where Tory come to bump now. Cleared its founder, Klaus Schwab, and his wife, Hilde Schwab, of any wrongdoing. BlackRock shares were down 1% amid a mixed day for markets. Retail sentiment and stock weights around the company was in bearish territory. And this was just, let me give you the date on this. So this was when they made the announcement, just before they made the announcement, and they made the announcement 2 weeks ago. The AAF had launched an investigation into Klaus Schwab in April after a whistleblower leveled allegations of misconduct, and Schwab resigned from the organization as its chairman before the investigation was announced. And that's why we were taken by surprise, because we just couldn't, it was so sudden. But anyway, so that's the thing. But it's an interesting thing, the way they are saying that they have cleared him, right? Listen to this. In its announcement on Friday, the World Economic Forum said it found, and I quote, no evidence of material wrongdoing by Schwab. Minor irregularities stemming from blurred lines between personal contributions and forum operations reflect deep commitment rather than intent of misconduct. Goodness gracious me. It added, so it stated that its board had taken steps to address issues identified throughout the investigation. So look here, this is gaslighting at its highest. You know, this is gaslighting at its highest. So in a joint statement, BlackRock's CEO, Charles Fink, and Vice President of Roche, the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world, Roche Holdings, look it up, ROCHE Holdings, that is going to carry you down. It's going to carry you down a literal rabbit hole. You're going to feel like Alice in Wonderland trying to figure out who this man Roche is, right? Because then you have to go to the Club of Rome. And when you go to the Club of Rome, it will walk you left, right, and center. Who these people are. We already did the class on Larry Fink, but Roche now is another matter. So I want you to do some research on him, because what we have here is anyway. So let me say this in a joint statement. BlackRock's Fink and Roche's Hoffman said they are optimistic about the organization's future. The world is more fragmented and complex than ever, but the need for a platform that brings together business, government, and civil society has never been greater. We believe the forum can serve as a unique catalyst for cooperation, the statement read. Read between the lines. The EEF trustees include Fink and Hoffman, apart from IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, that person's name is, Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, and former U.S. Vice President Al Gore. Remember, he was between Al Gore and Tony Blair. You know, they are steep in this thing. Tony Blair seems to be very involved too in destroying. I take that back. Tony Blair, I think, my opinion is that Tony Blair might be very involved in Keir Starmer's government, because that whole thing seems like it's just going south. All right. So the global technocratic order, as we said before, technocracy and transhumanism, this is a gigantic boost. And this announcement is something we're watching closely. Roche is a billionaire. He is worth $5.71 billion, and we tell you about Larry Fink all the time. Hoffman is a member of the Club of Rome. He's a member of the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He is a member of the board of System IQ, which is a company that intends to, and I quote, drive a positive disruption in economic systems. Do you know what that means? Driving positive disruption in economic systems. We see that happening already, right, in the United States with the tariffs, et cetera, et cetera. And Larry Fink, of course, CEO of BlackRock, was appointed interim co-chair, and he is he's somebody who, from what we've done, the research on him is into public-private cooperation, which is technocracy, getting rid of the politicians, replacing them with them, the technocrats, interplay between economics, politics, and environmental sustainability. We tell you when they talk about environmental sustainability, they're talking about taking control of the food chain, the weather chain, the water chain, and all of the chain. And sustainability for them is a bad word for us. Anytime they say sustainability, it means that they want to kill us. Improving the state of the world through public-private cooperation. These are some of the things that Larry Fink focuses on. And remember, we told you before that public-private cooperation, what that means really, it's also technocracy. All right? It's where they come in, and that's what's happening in Jamaica now. Let me take a quick break and come back. Service excellence is public-private partnerships. This is what is happening in Jamaica now, where these people are put in trust through our taxes and so much more. They're entrusted to take care of the land, the rivers, the water, the sea. They have gone into public-private partnership. They have created a department called the Ministry of Economic Growth and is it Development? Ministry of Economic Growth. And that ministry is a replica of what public-private partnership looks like, but it's also, you have to study it closely. It's in the Prime Minister's office. Look at who is there, who the people. You have to take the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, take it out, put it down, look at it, look at every single person who's in there, look at every single ambassador, look at what it does, look at what it says, because this is the galley, if you will. This is the heart of the matter. This is what it looks like and what it is becoming. And look at the people and how they are also involved in other things. For example, you're fighting for the access to the ocean, access to the sea. But look and see who are the people you are fighting, and look at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and see if they are in there, or if them brother or them sister or them uncle or them wife in there, because this is basically how it works. So here we are. Larry Fink also has strong ties to global finance, to corporate governance, and so do Roach. And Roach, of course, is pharmaceutical. Now, why the pharmaceutical industry? That's another question. What plans do they have? Why the pharmaceutical industry? Those are questions we must ask ourselves and answer, because we must look at the United Nations. They have just come out, well, not just, but I think it was late last year that they published their Agenda 2030. And what that includes is a global health system, which means that you're going to be requiring a global health certificate. What does that make you? Now, we're also hearing from Jamaica. Let me just bring it back home. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to bring it back home for a minute to say that, so NIDS is going to happen. NIDS has already happened, so it is going to happen. We're hearing that this department of something was hacked, the RGD themselves was hacked, then them turn around and tell us that PICA was hacked, and then them start tell us now about why this hacking what them related to, and why we have this digital, these cyber attacks of these spaces or these institutions and organizations. Now, I can't prove that they were hacked or not hacked. But what I know, they have to be hacked for them to bring in what they want to carry in. And so they're telling us that they're hacked. And I am not saying that them never hacked them. We probably need to ask who hacked them. That's a number one. And then number two, to say, so what are you going to do? Let us see what you have in mind, because something tell me that you're going along with Agenda 2030. What does that mean for us individually as a people? That question must be asked and answered. That is where I am at. I can't say what it means for us individually, apart from it fits right into this whole rollout of technocracy and transhumanism. So let us do the further research on what these two people are up to, Larry Fink and Roach. But I would say, because we have done so much research already on Larry Fink, if you haven't, then you can go do that now on BlackRock, etc. We have done months and months and months of programming on him and BlackRock. What we would do now is to focus a little bit on Roche, on this pharmaceutical, Roche Holding, which is the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world. Here's a billionaire who has come in, and they've told us what their plans are. How will those plans impact us here in Jamaica? I am mainly concerned, as I have always said, with two things. One is food and the other one is water. And these are on the same level. Water is more important than food. But we're concerned about the two things. So water is food. Food is any solid or, what is food? Food is any solid or liquid, which when eaten or, I never said drinking. When consumed, nourishes the body, enabling it to function properly. No, sir. You want to add to it?
It's quite a good definition.
There you go. So that is food. So I am very concerned about land for food. I mean, organic food, real food. Not what Bill Gates is already doing. By the way, they're already making food out of nothing, out of cells. And they're using any cell. I don't know where them get them cells from, and I don't know who those cells are. And that is not a slip of the tongue. Who those cells are.
Or who them selling it to.
Oh, there you go, Vicky. Who them selling it to. Right, so we're more concerned about our thing. So on a very, very serious note, even though I'm big here, they laugh, it's a very, very serious thing that these people are controlling the food supply chain. It means that they are going to be, they have the power to create false starvation, just like they did in Ethiopia, as we told you earlier, in the early 90s. They have to, and we saw that in COVID. They have the power to just withdraw everything. We are so dependent on food imports. And then the other thing is our waterways, our fresh water. So much of that is gone now. The rivers, and them not just all dry up, is because they have been hijacked up atop. So what used to come down to you, you're not seeing anymore. And then they tell us that it is climate change. And this is where they come in with sustainability, environmental sustainability. What do we do? Well, all of we will have a piece of land, a country. Because this is, am I wrong in saying this, Biggie, that a lot of Jamaicans really, I think, what people them have piece of land, a country, don't it?
No.
No? No? Like country where we come from? On a full land?
We are probably very fortunate. A lot of the lands we see are not owned by anybody. So it won't
Crown land.
It is
So-called crown land.
Right. And then secondly, a lot of us are so far below the poverty line that we live in these shacks and in these impoverished areas. And so many of us that we don't have access to it.
While
a lot of us,
everybody hearing Big A?
while a lot of us,
Well, ask the listeners if I'm hearing you because you're very much off.
I believe a lot of us. There are some of us that do, but there are also a lot of us that don't.
Grab the mic. All right, because what I was talking about is Big A. I take the point you're making, and then what I was referring to was like rural-urban migration. I think so many of us have left. So many of our people have left country, where them born and grow, and left early too, and gone into urban areas because them gone seek a better life.
Mm-mm.
And them now think say go back a country, go farm the land. And, lands. So some of those lands I'm saying.
I don't know how much of those lands are farmable, and a lot of, first and foremost, a lot of us as a lot of persons who have become urbanized have totally lost connection with their people in the country. Lots of them only hear so them did have some roots on it, them don't know where to start. So that in itself is and this is real. My name is Higgins, and I have encountered a lot of other Higginses across Jamaica. And then we ask, you come from Clarendon, you come from St. Mary, some here say, some Higgins down there, them don't have a clue as to where to start.
Mm-hmm. Well, the RGD has been hacked.
Eh?
And that's where you start. I'm just saying.
They don't have a clue as to where to start.
Yeah.
So they hear, and them feel that some people related to them somewhere, but they don't know where to begin. So them don't have them on the land down there or whatever it is.
Well, at the point is well taken, because I honestly haven't really looked into it at any great level. Just to say, anecdotally, we said so much people come from country and rural Jamaica, and you head to the urban area for a good reason, because of how the system.
And don't get me wrong, there are some of us who do it. There are many of us that do, but there are also a great many of us who don't, and who don't even know where to start. And
that is why all of we know have a farm, but if enough of us are farming, then all of we will eat.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, but there's so much idle land, and then two types of idle land. The one where we left back, where we were left and Ghana, urban
first and
areas.
foremost doing it.
And then there's the crown land.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you see, we used to have the Ubuntu mentality entrenched into us from our African ancestry.
Yes.
But we have lost that through modernization, through the system. So we are now a selfish kind of person, where we won't give up what we have so that somebody else can improve, unless we are improving in the process. Yeah. So I will give you some tomatoes, but make sure me get breadfruit in them.
Yeah. Thank you for the planting last week. You have something else? What
I have more for you.
Oh, goodness gracious me. Thank you so much. Wow, look at that. Yeah, the point is well taken. Last week, I was a week before I was talking to Dr. Ajamo, and he was saying, when he used the word trust, it's a very similar thing. We were saying that we have somehow in Jamaica now we've become a people who don't trust each other at all. So that is built into the selfishness. And then we have this new, not so new, but this idea of bad mind. This where we think everybody a bad mind me, so we don't even take thought because it's bad mind. So these are some of the stuff that I think kind of dogging Jamaicans. But considering which part we are going so we need the land and we need to farm the food. Mm-hmm. That is the bottom line.
I agree.
Well, what is that planting you said? Can I just pick up the farmers anyway?
No. In Fruitful Vale?
In Fruitful Vale. Good morning and big up to the farmers in Fruitful Vale. And also good morning and big up to us, I for the honey. Yeah. But me never get 2 bottles of honey or 1. You get honey?
Not this time.
Okay. So we come in, she can get honey and I keep it. By the way, Matrix. Matrix, my brethren. Or the honey goes, you're going to get Matrix honey?
I have bought myself a bottle.
Well, yes, good morning, good. Thank you, Matrix. We need honey around here. Norma, we're halfway, and this is what we need to do when that's another thing we expect people to give all the time. But there is bartering that works, which is a whole different thing, where it's not it's not necessarily because it'll help me that I'm giving, but it's because this is how now we work. You give me honey, and me give you June plum because that may have in my yard. So we might have to go back to that bartering system.
We have not. Use that system to any effectiveness because we start measuring how much honey worth and how much June plum.
When I come from the bird and the bees.
Yeah. Right. And I said, no, but me give you one bottle of honey, me supposed to get one truckload of June plum feet.
Right.
That is how. We have been so brainwashed.
Yeah, we're gone away, but we can't come back.
So
I think we can play a part, come back. Thank you for the planting again. Got the other one them finished already. Okay, so this is where we're saying goodbye. You have anything else to say?
No. Yeah, I do.
Yes.
The IAAF championships this morning.
Right, but remember that I just see it on the TV there. Is it Clayton?
Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be prouder as a Jamaican.
Tell me who you're proud of. Clayton?
No. Of course.
Right.
No, of course. It was Shelly-Ann's last hurrah.
Right.
She came, is it 5th or 6th? I believe.
6th I saw.
Right. Sharika came 4th. But Tina represented well.
Yes, man.
She did. And the pundits.
Why film search?
No, we still tell about that. The pundits say that she is the lesser of the two. But the other sister, which is Tia, she got injured and didn't make it. So she's
yes.
She is the and believe me, she did very well.
Yes.
Because the heats and the semifinals was not pointing to her medaling.
Much less winning.
Let alone.
But that's silver. Winning. Silver win.
Because,
silver win.
Listen, that girl who won, I mean,
Jefferson.
come on now. She is just, she's in her element since last year. But now the men's now is another story.
All right, come. Me never see that, but I was in the middle of an interview.
To it, all right.
Yes.
That was the finish of the ages. Because all the pundits were saying it would be Kishane, then Noah Lyles from the USA,
right.
and hopefully, Oblique Civil would medal as a bronze medalist because this other American, Banderek or whatever his name is, was a strong contender for the bronze. Well, the tables were turned this morning because first and foremost there was a false start from the Bahamian? I think it was one some Caribbean, Trinidad, somewhere. Anyway, there was a false start, and then that left 7 persons to the line. The whistle went off, and Kishane stormed out of the blocks and looked like he was going to be the winner. Down to the last line. Here comes Oblique Civil.
Yes, sir.
For a 1-2 finish for Jamaica.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
So who did drop on him? Because I'm in the middle of the interview. Miss when him drop on him back, and that
was him. That was him in his, in his excitement.
I never go watch it when we go home.
Yeah, man. It was
excitement.
It was great. So the score has been settled. We can remember now,
Yes.
Noah Lyles was given the nod over Kishane at the Olympics last year.
Yes, I remember. And you spoke about that.
This 1,000
yes.
Which is ridiculous to me.
And you mentioned Kishane. You said you talked about Kishane in terms of how he should have we were having that discussion they should have called that.
No, yeah, man. And at best they should have awarded both of them the gold medal. But anyway. So, it gave Noah Lyles the bragging rights for almost a whole year.
For Bresito.
Yeah, that did take. Yeah. But the season didn't fare well for him because Oblique Civil beat him once. Right. And Kishane, Oblique beat him twice and Kishane beat him once at the medal.
So how Oblique looked? Because
it was down now to the wire now, the settlement of the argument them this morning. Yeah.
Everything settled.
Yeah, man.
When the dust clear.
It was the settlement of the argument.
So what were the times?
Oblique ran 9.77 to win. Was 9. Yeah, was 9.7772, his personal best. And can't remember the times for the others. But what was exciting to see was Usain Bolt in the stands.
Yeah, I saw that.
He was beside himself.
Yes,
I
saw that.
Yeah, man. He was beside himself this morning. Yeah,
it's so fitting that he was there.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
witness that.
He won it in 2014, I think.
Oh,
right.
That's it?
Yeah. So it was the, I guess, the handing over, the passing of the baton, so to speak.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, you'd have to come. No, but you can still watch and I'm not interview.
No, I'm not. Let's watch for the day. It'll be good.
I missed everything, and people were on, and I couldn't because your sister had me alone. But I was watching the TV.
I decided that I would have been late this morning if it was that I had to stay to watch it. But fortunately, the race ran at the ladies ran at 8:15, and the men ran at 8:20. So I had adequate time to be excited and calm down. Thank
you for carrying the excitement to the space, because I was going to cuss Robert because I was saying to myself, then Robert can't call. So we have somebody in Tokyo. Somebody need to call me.
No, of course. And them call me, no. I would have interrupted the gospel.
Exactly. I was on standby to do that. So I you see my program had 2 interviews I had alone for the whole morning. Just waiting.
Have you heard from the deacon?
No, but I figured that they should be there by now. It's 6:10.
Right, the deacon is supposed to be in the middle of service at this point.
Yes, and
he didn't consult me as to the sermon that he would preach, but
he's going to, why is he not? Because I missed out something. Why would I call him deacon?
Because I'm sitting for me. I'm your pastor.
Right.
No, and if you don't, if you don't that, just look at the text line. I'm on in time.
Right, I noticed that is a thing. Yeah, I'm okay. So what we are looking for now? A Sunday morning, is it?
No.
So, good morning.
Okay, and that is just one.
Good morning, Reverend Biggie.
All right.
This is such a shame. This is like my mother thinking that you're a Christian because you only listen to you on Sunday.
Right.
So good morning, Reverend Biggie.
Right. So
there's a whole deception that's going on around you.
No, it's not a deception. It's just
schizophrenia.
It is just the sentiment of what I do on a Sunday morning.
There you go.
No, people don't believe that. No, because them call them other days of the week when we play my dance out.
No, them, but I'm telling you, there are a lot of mothers who go to church on a Sunday, who come home in time to hear all of your stuff, and you cannot tell them that you work on Saturday night. They will have none of it.
Well,
and my mother is one such person.
It's not me.
She will have
work on a Sunday morning.
I know. As a matter of fact, my mother asked me why I can't be more like you. Why you can't play the music that when Big A play? I say, I'm going to come up there and turn on the radio on a Saturday night when Big A at work. But I've never done it because I can't afford to shut
and I hope is that you didn't do it last night.
No, I didn't do it.
Not last night, because last night I'd be really going bad for sure.
No, I did. I haven't done it. I have no intention of doing it. Make sure stay the believer. Anyway, so no, I don't know how the deacon doing, but deacon, I'm going to know how you do.
Yeah, man. So he is the heir apparent.
There you go. Wow.
So,
I thought it was
the deacon.
Oh, so Natalie stepped down?
Yes, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Natalie, you stepped down, eh? I didn't tell anybody.
All
right, Vicky, I'll leave it here to you because you see what I'm going already though. You see how much time my little friend Brianna come here so I can tell you it's a time signal. It's not her fault. Yes, a time signal.
Okay.
There we go.
One Uptown TV. Yo, enough there, me I represent.